I'd like to show you how to display aerial photos that the Minnesota DNR maintains for the state of Minnesota, a useful background for lots of purposes, for styling maps, for digitizing information, identifying stand boundaries or roads or plots or lots of things. So to do that, though, we first have to display them in what's called a web mapping service, and we get that through the browser pane. Now, the browser pane didn't show up because I turned it off last time I used QGIS. When I opened it, it was still gone. But if I use this View, Panels, and then Browser panel, I can see the browser pane shows up. And these things are called WMSs, and so I'll look through the browser pane until I see, oh, there's WMSs. Now, there are none identified. You can see there's no caret by the side, so if I left-click and then right-click on it, I can create a new connection. Basically, what I have to do is make a entry and then provide the URL. So I'm going to call it DNR Orthos, although it's a bit of a misnomer. I did this MN-DNR Airphoto WMS service search that gave me this MinGeo WMS Geospatial Image Service. So if I click on that and then go down in here, there's the technical specifications, or the details. And these display the data in UTM Zone 15 coordinates. I haven't talked about coordinate systems. We'll just pick these for now. We'll get a little complaint later on, so I'm going to copy this. You might run into some issues if you collect GPS data and the GPX doesn't have the projection information, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that later in a later video on how do you change projections and how do you figure out what's going on if your data don't match. Anyway, I create this WMS connection here. I copy in the right URL there and I say OK, and lo and behold, it shows up. Now, I have a caret here at the WMSs and a caret at the DNR Orthos option. I can left click and it lists then the service, and I left click again to open this, and it says, oh, I have 3 different entries or types. So there's regional, Twin Cities, and statewide. I'll open the statewide again by looking at that caret. And then here we have a bunch of different images. So 1991 black and whites, Landsat data, 2003, all the way up through the latest 2019 FSA data. There's also a LiDAR hillshade if you want from the statewide LiDAR data. So I'm going to display the 2019 color IR Farm Service Administration. So I'll left click and hold and drag it down into my new layers panel, this table of contents here, and up it'll pop. Now you may get a question asking you if you want to use a coordinate system. I displayed this earlier and it gave me that question. Just say OK if you get that request, and it'll give you this default coordinate system. I'm going to now zoom in, so I can click up here in this magnifying glass, the zoom in or zoom out or the pan buttons. And so I'm going to click on the zoom in and then zoom into a small area here up near Duluth. You can see as I click and hold and drag, it gives me more detail. The main images are sampled coarsely so that the data can get to your computer fairly quickly. I'm going to here click back to the last zoom using this magnifying glass, and you can see that there's not much detail. It's because it's not pushing the literally billions of pixels, picture elements, to cover the whole state. It just grabs a subset of them to display to us. And as we zoom in, it finally grabs all the data that are there until you can start to see the individual pixels inside the data set. Oops, that was a little too close. Took a while to get all those pixels. So you can start to see the jagged edges of the actual picture elements about 1 meter on a side. And so I'm using this zoom back button to zoom back out. And we have all sorts of information here then. I can look at time series, for example, the color FSA from 2013 I can pull down, and it's the same area, a different time period. So these data are quite useful for if you want to use it as a background in an image, look at change, try and map stand boundaries, place your plots, see if things are in the right direction. They're just a valuable, valid data source for the statewide data and then regional or Twin Cities metro data. So some of the regional data are of quite high resolution, the same thing for the, for example, 2013 1-foot color north. Some of the metro area data are quite high resolution. So one thing, if you load a data set and it doesn't show up, it's because it doesn't cover the area you're on now. You can right-click on that data set and then left-click zoom to the layer, and it will zoom to the area covered by that data set. So here's a set of data that's 1 foot collected in 2013. It's patches, so it's not continuous. You don't have the data everywhere for this special regional data, but I can zoom in then on this 1 foot data and get the extremely high resolution. And so if you're working in a zone, it's quite useful to look through these data to see what they have for your zone if you need air photo information. And it's free. You can't beat free. So there you have it, a web mapping service to access Minnesota DNR served images.